Enter the childhood home of our most brutal mass murderer. The home has been rigged up with several cameras, but for the most part, the audience will see only what you see.
Are you sure they're not just putting us in some house with hidden cameras in the shower?
This is gonna be fun.
The windows will be boarded up and all the doors will be locked shut behind them. No one will be allowed to leave until the show is over. Let the Dangertainment begin.
You think this is the one that he used to, do his thing?
One flash and you could light up 1,000 computer screens.
You are like this close to getting voted off the island. Wait, what just happened? We just lost Bill's camera. There's somebody in the hall.
Somebody please help us.
Hello, Michael. I knew you'd come sooner or later. What took you so long?
Trick or treat, mother.
Hello, everyone. I am Sean, and welcome to my Horror Corner. As always, thank you so much for watching my video today. I really do appreciate that. And to those of you who have subscribed, an extra special thank you to you. You guys are awesome. Your support means so much to me. I really do appreciate it. Continuing to watch the numbers slowly climb. So thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. You guys are the best. So today, we are going to continue on with the Halloween franchise that we've been walking through for the last few weeks. No new collectibles to show today, so we're going to get right into things, and we're going to be talking about Halloween Resurrection from 2002. Kind of a couple of pre-thoughts on this one. I remember seeing this movie. I don't remember whether or not I saw it in the theater. Yeah, I really don't remember on this one. I do remember seeing it, though, early on. And yeah, I it's funny. This one's going to be interesting to talk about because yeah, I remember being really excited about it. This is the end of another timeline, basically in the Halloween universe. We've talked about how they have there's different timelines in this universe depending on which one you want to follow, or you can be like me and just kind of watch all of them. So this one picks up immediately after. I say immediately after. I think it's 3 years. We'll get into that in a minute. After H2O. Some interesting things about this one. I remember liking it the first time I saw it. Later seeing it again, maybe still liking it, but not quite as much. And then I rewatched it a few days ago to get ready to record from this. And yeah, this one's going to be an interesting one to talk about. So let's just go ahead and dive right in with Halloween Resurrection. Of course, as always, I want to start off with a brief synopsis of the film. When a group of teens win a contest to spend a night in Michael Myers' childhood home to be broadcast live on the internet, they believe they are in for a little fun and some free publicity. But things go frightfully wrong, and the game turns into a struggle to make it out of the house alive. Again, brief synopsis for Halloween Resurrection. Film was released on July 12th of 2002, directed by Rick Rosenthal, screenplay by Larry Brand and Sean Hood, the story by Larry Brand, based, of course, on characters created by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter, produced by Paul Freeman, cinematography done by David Geddes, maybe is how you pronounce that. Edited by Robert A. Ferretti. Music by Danny Lux. Production companies Nightfall Productions and Trancas International Films. Distributed again by Dimension Films. A runtime of 90 minutes, a budget of $15 million, and a box office of $37.6 million. Critics and audience scores were down on this one, especially compared to H2O. Critics only give this film a 10% approval rating, and the audience was at 24%. So a huge drop off again from where H2O landed prior to this one. And overall, again, consensus of what critics thought about the film, just kind of reading several reviews and kind of trying to put it together and looking at Rotten Tomatoes. But basically, this film, the one thing that I kept reading that kind of stood out to me was that this film is considered an embarrassment to the franchise and an insult to the fans. It was also mentioned how poor the treatment of both the Michael Myers character and the Laurie Strode character were for this film. So that definitely gives us something interesting as we get right into it. Some behind the well, let's talk about the cast first. We have Jamie Lee Curtis returning briefly as Laurie Strode, Brad Lorry as Michael Myers, Buster Rhymes as Freddie Harris, Bianca Kodlik as Sarah Moyer, Sean Patrick Thomas as Rudy, Daisy McCracken as Donna, Katie Sackhoff as Jennifer, Luke Kirby as Jim, Ryan Merriman as Miles Barton or Deckard, and Tyra Banks as Nora. Um, kind of getting started off here, and we mentioned this a little bit in the H2O episode, but I'm going to kind of touch on it again because producers, Mustafa Cod, they all already had another film in mind when they were doing H2O, and we talked about how Mustafa had had it in a contract in legal writing that the Michael Myers character could not be killed. Jamie Lee Curtis, who initially had returned for H2O, didn't want to do another sequel after H2O, and had almost left that film, and because they were talking about another one, and she didn't want that to happen, and they had to come up with this agreement that H2O wouldn't hint at a sequel, but they already the producers already had in mind what they were going to do to start the next film. They just couldn't hint at it in H2O. And I don't know, Jamie Lee Curtis then ended up returning for this next film. I don't know, and I didn't, in some of the brief research I did, really find out why. I don't know if she was contractually obligated to be in the movie. I don't know if they just really wanted her back, and the only way she agreed to do it was to have her character killed off. Finally, I'm not sure why she was in the film, but at the end of Halloween H2O, we see her. What we think at the time is use an axe and chop off Michael Myers' head, so you think Michael's is finally dead, and this is over. But obviously, that's not the case. So Larry Brand came up with the idea, and we'll kind of touch on some of these things I was talking about. Larry Brand came up with the idea for Halloween Resurrection due to the rise in popularity of reality television. He originally had the title as HalloweenMichaelMyers.com. That title was scrapped very quickly, and I'm glad. I don't like that title at all. But Halloween Resurrection was then chosen by the producers to be the title to let the audience know that Michael was still alive. This was not a copycat thing. This was Michael. He was back. Producers considered having Danielle Harris in this film. I think that would have been interesting. I would like to have seen that. Not to play the Jamie Lloyd character, but just considered to have her in the movie, to bring back someone else from the franchise. I kind of would have liked to have seen that. I'm a big Danielle Harris fan. I would like to have seen how that played out if they got her in the movie. And they also wanted LL Cool J back after H2O. But by this time, LL just required more money. He was too expensive than what they were willing to pay. I think I read somewhere that they did want another rapper to be in the film. I read that Coolio, I think, auditioned. I had seen, but the part eventually went to Busta Rhymes. And the trailer for the film was delivered with the release of Jason X. So let's kind of get into this movie and some things that I want to talk about, especially in the beginning. So again, as I mentioned, the film starts off 3 years after H2O, and we discovered that Laurie has been institutionalized due to the guilt of murdering the paramedic. So let's start there. We know, again, H2O ends with Laurie, what we think at the time is decapitating Michael. I read somewhere that immediately following wrapping up the shooting for Halloween H2O, they shot this next scene where you see Michael in the paramedic's clothes leaving the scene. And then it's explained at the beginning of this film by a couple of nurses who are on their way to see Laurie that Michael had attacked a paramedic when they showed up there on the scene, that he had crushed his larynx where the man couldn't talk, and then basically changed clothes with him, put the mask on him. And so when they think you're wheeling out Michael's body. They actually have this paramedic, um, and Michael was able to escape. Uh, and then they take the mask uh, off of the head that Laurie has decapitated and discover that it was this paramedic. And so um, Laurie's in the hospital now. I'm okay with this. This is all right if this is where we want to go with this. Laurie, anticipating Michael's return, has set this trap on the roof. She's been waiting for 3 years, knowing that Michael at some point is going to come after her, and she's pretty much faked being comatose with these nurses, but she's alert and watching and ready for Michael. Of course, Michael does show up. We kind of get the first kills of the movie where he kills a couple of guards that are there. Decent kills. I mean, not bad. And then, Michael comes into Laurie's room. And the chase begins with Michael chasing Laurie, and eventually they end up on the roof. On the roof, Laurie traps Michael. Looks like she's got a chance to kill him. But then, due to still feeling that guilt of murdering the wrong person, she wants to remove his mask to make sure that she's got the right person this time. Michael ends up getting a hold of her, stabs, and kills Laurie Strode. I have a lot of thoughts about this because it's not a bad opening to the film. However, I really didn't like this franchise has already made the mistake once of saying the Laurie Strode character is dead, right? I mean, that's how they started off Halloween 4 is you find out that she died in a car wreck and now her, daughter is in foster care. I don't like, and I remember even in the very beginning, the first time I watched this film, I did not like the way they did this. I did not like the fact that they killed Laurie's character. Maybe it's because, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis is so popular as Laurie Strode, and Laurie Strode is one of the the best final girls of all time. Maybe that's why I didn't like it. I don't know. It bothered me that they were killing Laurie's character here. Uh, I didn't think it made sense. But I've been trying to decide what I thought the better route to go, because if Jamie Lee doesn't want to be in the film, then don't bring her in, or the only way she's going to be in the film is if you kill her character. Just don't have her in the film. That would be my first thought, because you can't really bring someone else back. I mean, you could, but it wouldn't be the same having someone else play Laurie. So that doesn't make sense. I don't like the idea, like I said, of them killing Laurie, but I was trying to think of what else could they do. Could we open the film and find out that she has gone crazy and she's in a mental hospital, and then Michael has just gone back home? You could do that, but then it also doesn't make sense that, for 20 years, Michael waited and then found out where she was and came to the school to attack her like in H2O. After 3 years, he's just going to give up now and not go after her anymore. I really don't know that, that doesn't make sense either. So I don't know what the best way to have done this would have been. I think, in my opinion, and again, maybe it doesn't bother some people that they killed Laurie. Maybe they're okay with that. I think, in my opinion, the best thing to have done would have been to, if Jamie Lee Curtis didn't want to do this film, just don't have her in it, and just make a reference to, at some point, that Laurie Strode is now in a mental hospital, that everything she's gone through and then the guilt of killing this paramedic was too much, and she's in a mental hospital, and leave it for now. Because you could come back to it later, somewhere down the road, for another film, if you could talk Jamie Lee into returning at some other point. Because we know eventually she does, right? She returns for in Halloween in 2018. And that trilogy. So just leave it open. You don't have to try to completely close that door. Let's leave that open, because we've already messed up once and said that her character was dead and now had to start a whole new timeline. Let's not do that again. But that's the mistake they made, and that's what we got. In my opinion, that's the mistake. I think it would have just been better to make a reference to her being in a hospital and then leave it and see if you could come back to that somewhere down the road if Jamie Lee would come back. I personally, again, just think that would have been better. All of that being said, it is what it is. I mean, this is what we get, right? And so I remember the first time I saw the film, it took me a little bit. Then as we get into the next parts of the movie, it took me a little bit to kind of get into it because I was still upset about the fact that they killed, Laurie there in the beginning. But now, having known it's coming, know what's going on, and watching the movie again, I still don't like it, but I'm like, it is what it is, and I know, what else is coming down the road. We've got Rob Zombie's remakes of the franchise. We've got the newest trilogy, David and Gordon Green's, trilogy. So I know there's more coming. I know she's going to be back, but at the time, it was frustrating to me. Yeah, that's my rant and my thoughts on that. Michael then, after he kills Laurie, he gives this knife to another patient, basically framing him, I guess, for the murder of Laurie. And then we cut to the next part of the movie. I've kind of broken this into 4 parts. So the beginning that we just talked about, and now we get our introduction to these college students, and that they've won this competition. They're going to appear on this reality show called Dangertainment. It's directed by Freddie Harris and Nora Winston, and they're going to have to spend the night in Michael's childhood home to determine what made Michael evil. I actually like this story. I think this could have gone somewhere. I think it's a good plot point. I really, or maybe not plot points are even the right word, but I like this. I think this is a good idea, and I think this could have been really good had it been done a little bit differently. And we'll kind of get into that more as we go. But I want to say that I do like that, because to rewatch this film now, like I did a couple of days ago, and I try so hard when I watch these older movies to go back and, the best I can, forget what's coming later, even though I already know it, and just watch this movie like it was the first time I was seeing it, and try to really come at it with fresh eyes. And I like this idea. I think it could have been really good. I just don't think it ended up working the way things were done, and I'll kind of get into why I think that. We get another kill then where there's a cameraman who's setting up these cameras throughout the house, and Michael kills him. The students finally enter the home. We also get this other character who's not there in the home, Deckard, that I mentioned earlier, that seems to kind of have a crush on one of these girls, Sarah. And so he's at this party, but he goes upstairs into her room, and now he's watching the live stream, so he can see what's going on as well. My first issue here is I'm not a huge fan of any of these characters. And again, I know you don't have to be, right? If you're there to see Michael, then you don't really have to like the characters. I get that. I've heard people talk about that in the Friday the 13th franchise a lot, that it's easy to root for Jason because so many of these characters in this franchise are unlikable. That's okay. I mean, that's fine. I just find it a little bit better if there's at least a couple of them that you like, that you can almost find yourself trying to root for or wanting to survive. I just think that makes it a little bit better, in my opinion. But I was having a hard time really liking any of the characters for this one, and I feel like in the other Halloween the other Halloween films in the franchise, there have been at least a few characters that I liked here and there. Even in the Cult of Thorn trilogy that I ended up not being a huge fan of overall, I still like, Danielle Harris's portrayal of Jamie Lloyd, and I liked Rachel, and of course there's Dr. Loomis. I mean, there are characters in the film that I do like and that I find myself rooting for, and I really had a hard time finding any characters in this movie that I really liked. I mean, at this our introduction to them, and they're in the house and they're doing their thing, I'm like, okay, I guess we'll just want Michael to kill them all. And so now, these kids are in the house. Deckard's watching the broadcast. We know Freddie and Nora have set all this up. And so, kind of here we go into the primary parts of the film, where Michael is, basically picking these people off one by one. And the people, where Deckard is watching, we've got multiple people who have now come into the room and are watching this, and they believe everything they're seeing is fake, right? Deckard is the only one that's really questioning whether or not this is real. We get a few more kills. Michael kills Bill. We move on, and there's a couple of the kids. Donna and Jim, I think were the names. They find this like secret room, and they're exploring down there. Michael they get separated, and Michael kills Donna. Not a bad kill there. That one was good, I think. And then, the rest of the group, Rudy and Sarah, Jim returns. They find Freddy, Busta Rhymes' character, and he's dressed as Michael, and they kind of realize this is all a setup. And basically he's asking them to play along with it, because nobody really wants to watch a bunch of kids just walk around a house. They want to be scared. So they want to think Michael's there. So he's kind of set everything up, and he just wants them to play along. But then Michael's, the real Michael comes in. He ends up killing Jim. He ends up killing Rudy, and he starts chasing Sarah. So they quickly find out that the real Michael is there also. We get some scenes here now where Sarah's trying to hide out, but they've got these cameras on their head. There's also cameras set up around the house, and so Deckard, through the internet, is kind of trying to help her stay away from Michael. So let me kind of talk about this. I know that's a lot that I just summed up, but let me kind of talk about this. Again, the kills aren't bad. My problem is I realized what they were trying to do between the cameras set up in the house and the cameras that everybody was wearing. They were trying to kind of get you a real look, or like a found footage look, to make it look like that. I feel like the editing was not good, and maybe it wasn't, maybe it looked the way they wanted it to. I just thought it was too much of a distraction when we're cutting between this is what's on these cameras in the house, or this is what's on the cameras that these people are wearing, to us actually watching the movie, normal like. I just don't think the transitions look good, and I don't think, I realize, again, the footage is supposed to look the way it does, but to me, it's so bad. It's almost like a distraction for the movie, and it's somewhat hard to follow what's going on. We also get these strange cuts from time to time when it's switching views of, like, you see Michael's face. It just is awkward to me, and it's kind of distracting, and I really wasn't liking that. That was also, I don't remember that bothering me as much the first time I saw this film as it was bothering me now, but it was really kind of deterring my enjoyment of the movie, I think. And then Freddy, he comes back in, and he ends up finding Sarah and, talking to her and wanting to get out of there. And then we have a couple of battles between Freddy and Michael. And that's the next thing that I wanted to talk about. So, back in the day, I went through a phase where I was listening to some of that kind of music, and I was actually a huge Busta Rhymes fan. I really liked Busta Rhymes back in the day. I liked a lot of his music. I cannot stand this Freddy character. And I don't think that it was Busta didn't do a good job. I'm not saying that it was his performance. I just don't like this character. He's not a very likable person. His speeches and the way he talks to people is over the top. And this karate bullshit. I know earlier in the film we get a scene of him watching, and we find out he's this big kung fu fan, right? And he's watching this guy, and he's all into that. These fights between he and Michael, where he's doing this karate, and we've got the old Bruce Lee like sounds coming as he's doing it, is just so annoying to me. I think the first time I watched the movie, I probably thought it was funny, because I liked Busta Rhymes, and I thought, this is crazy, and probably kind of laughed at it. Watching the movie again as time went by, I was like, I don't know if I'm a fan or not, actually. And then watching it again recently, I'm like, this is so annoying. This karate bullshit and Busta Rhymes fighting Michael Myers and making these noises, it's just so annoying to me. And so at this point, I'm finding myself in this movie where I like the idea. I like the concept. I think it could have been really good. And I still like Michael, although I don't think he looks great in this film either. I think that the character of Michael is starting to look a little worse in some of these other films. he's not seeming as scary. He seems kind of awkward, and the fact that some guy doing karate is kicking his ass is just it's taking away from Michael, in my opinion. I'm not getting it. It's bugging me, and then we finally get to, Michael they end up setting this fire. Michael gets electrocuted. Freddie and Sarah escape. They're outside. The police have showed up. There's news there. And so the news are trying to talk to Sarah. And again, Freddie comes in and gives this speech again that's just over the top and so annoying. And I even read somewhere that the John Carpenter, who started all of this, who came up with this idea, created the Michael Myers character, directed the original film. He even made comments in watching this film, and he just was not a fan either. He was not a fan of the way it played out. He was not a fan of a lot of the same things that I've been talking about, and he absolutely hated the speech at the end where Freddie's trying to, be moralistic all of a sudden, if that's a word. And it just doesn't work for me. And Michael ends up getting taken to the morgue, and then we see, his eyes pop open in the morgue, so we know he's still alive, and the film ends. Yeah, this one is a struggle for me. I feel like, I've talked in the past about there are sometimes some movies, the more I watch them, I gain a greater appreciation for them and like them more than what I originally thought I did. There are other movies that the more I watch them, the less I like them. And unfortunately, this one falls into that category. I don't hate it. I don't hate the movie. It probably sounds like I do after everything I've said. I don't hate it. I like the idea. I like what they were trying to do. I just don't think it looked good. I don't think the characters were likable, especially this Freddy character. I think the fight scenes were absolutely ridiculous. And then when you take that and you add in the fact that we've killed Laurie in the beginning, Michael doesn't seem the same. There's just a lot about this movie that bothers me. Again, I don't hate the film. It just bothers me. So where I give this one on a scale of my 1 to 5, I struggled with that, trying to come up with my rating, and so I was kinda waiting to talk about it and get my thoughts and things out and listen to myself before I actually really gave that rating. But the more I think about it, I'm just not a huge fan, at all of this film. I don't hate the movie, but I'm only gonna give it a 2 out of 5, for this one. It's just not good, and probably one of my least favorites in the franchise. And again, that now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but this is going to wrap up another timeline because from here, and I don't know what they could have done. I mean, obviously, they let us know that Michael was still alive, but what would they do next? I don't know. I really don't know what they could have done next at this point, and it was probably a good idea to let this to let this franchise lay low for a while, because after the Curse of Michael Myers and that Cult of Thorn stuff, and then bouncing back so well with H2O, and then just falling off with this, I don't know what they would have done next. The only thing that I could think of at this point in the franchise, before we know what's coming, if they wanted to continue, I think would have been to go back, and they would have to again ignore some things. They would have to ignore H2O. They would have to ignore Resurrection, but maybe pick back up with the Jamie Lloyd character. Let's forget about 6 and just pick back up after 5, maybe, and try to do something different and forget this Cult of Thorn bullshit, and let's continue on with the Jamie Lloyd story. That could really be the only thing that I think of would have worked at this point. Instead, franchise laid low for a while, and then we got Rob Zombie's films, and that's what we're going to be talking about next is Rob Zombie's Halloween. So I'll be back in a few days to talk about that one. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Halloween Resurrection. Very disappointed in this one, and just again, while I don't hate the movie, I just found so much of the movie annoying. I think it had potential. There was something there that could have been good. It just didn't work the way they did it. So yeah, unfortunately, a 2 out of 5 for Halloween Resurrection for me on this one. I want to know what you think. Leave me some comments today. Please, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and then let me know what you think about Halloween Resurrection. Do you like this film? Are you okay with these things? Do you enjoy the the chaos that's going on in this one, or do you agree with me and this is over the top and one of the bottom of the franchise? I just want to know what you think. Interact with me. Let me know what your feelings are on Halloween Resurrection. And follow me on social media. I am on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on X. I have a Letterboxd account, Sean's Horror Corner. X or Letterboxd is actually my horror corner. But yeah, find me on social media. Give me a follow. I try to follow back. I post links for the videos on there when they come out. I have videos come out every Monday and every Thursday. So yeah, share the links, share this, help me to continue to grow this channel. And again, I'll be back in just a few days to talk about Rob Zombie's Halloween. Thank you so much.